what is the story behind this? What is the inspiration? It can't be flat. It needs to be authentic. Our consumers can sniff out an authenticity really quickly. And I'll give you an example. We had a restaurant, a hotel development that we're working through, and what is the programming going to be? And there's a membership component and multiple restaurants. Even the flag was undecided. Do we want to come in as like a Marriott Autograph? Do we want to come in as a Ritz-Carlton? Like, what tier do we want this to be?
Welcome, everyone. This is Realizations. This is the podcast where we talk about everything that is real estate related, adjacent. I started the Realizations podcast, as most of you know, because I got very pissed off about the NAR DOJ lawsuits and the commission lawsuits. And I realized that nobody understands real estate. They don't understand all the levels that it functions at in society. And so I decided to create this podcast so that I wouldn't be angry for years. I decided to educate people about real estate so that they could see how incredibly important everything about real estate is to our economy, to our lives, to our world. And today I'm very excited to have Amy Alexander on. She is the head of barrel aged management and is someone who focuses on hospitality, food, beverage operations, and how this relates to real estate is what we're going to get into in the conversation that we're just about to have. Welcome to the show, Amy. Lovely to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be talking about a little sort of a different part of our world today, which
Yeah.
we talk a lot about operations and hospitality and growth and hotels, and I'm excited to talk about real estate with you today.
Yeah, well, the thing about what you do is that you're engaged with different developers when they've purchased a large tract of land and they're about to put a massive hotel, resort, spa, what have you, on that property. You come in when in the planning stages when they're putting things together, trying to figure out what the best layout, the best of restaurants that should be there, what have you. Have you ever ventured into the realm of adult communities and things like that?
That's a great question. We actually have worked a little bit with a company that was working through exactly that sort of adult senior living facilities, and they owned multiple locations across the country and felt that their business model was really outdated. And the food and beverage and the hospitality and sort of the amenities that they were providing there. So we worked for a senior living facility. They had multiple across the country, and just really felt that the amenities that they were providing their guests hadn't evolved. So, a tuna fish sandwich and a glass of milk was the lunch offering, for example. And these are expensive places for people to live.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so they wanted to look at it as more of like, can we take that more hospitality approach, that resort approach, so that our guests aren't getting the bare minimum, but really we feel like this is an amenity and an add-on to
Oh,
add
my
those
Lord.
places. Yeah. And so, you should be able to get a nice glass of wine. You should be able to get the meal that you love.
Right.
And that programming isn't just bingo night, but like actually things that people want to be doing. So that was a really fun project. And at the end of the day, it all comes down to cost. And that's where this intersects so well with real estate, because you're going to go out there and you're going to charge a price for either your commercial real estate or your residential real estate. And the amenities that exist within the overall larger plan are what's going to help you drive the cost that you can charge. Right.
Absolutely. I'm always shocked when I'm representing a condo where there is no gym, where there are no parking facilities, where there is really nothing to offer the people who are living there outside of the actual space within the walls of the condo. It seems like people that are, it's sort of like developers who build driveways that are shared. Everyone hates shared driveways. No one should ever build anything that has a shared driveway. It always causes problems. It's always difficult. And it's like if you thought for 3 seconds, you wouldn't do that. You'd figure out another way. Same thing here. My generation, I'm a young boomer, and my generation is the richest generation in the history of the United States, as you well know. And to put people into housing situations where they don't have the things that they're used to and that they can buy and they can afford to buy is crazy.
Yeah.
It's really crazy. And I love the way you're thinking. It's very out of the box here with this. Now, You are a wunderkind, as far as I can tell. Tell me your history, how you got into doing what you do, your whole background. The fact that you were like opening restaurants for a restaurant chain in the Middle East in your early 20s, that tells me a lot about you. So I want to hear more about that. Tell me your life story a little bit.
Yeah, so I moved down to Miami right out of college. I was working at the iconic Fontainebleau Hotel. I was very lucky to get offered a role there out of school, and I was running a restaurant. It wasn't anything. I was a college graduate. It was 2008. It was the recession. It was a
Mhm.
job that required a high school diploma, and I remember thinking, "Oh no, what's this going to be like?" But I fell in love with the brand. I fell in love with the hotel. I've always loved luxury hospitality and sort of the ability to serve at the highest level. And so I joined a group, Hakkasan Group, that was about to really start their growth. They had at the time one restaurant in London and one in Miami. And I just thought, and I sort of always felt this way in my career. If the train's about to take off, get on the train, right? Like this is a concept that said, we're going to go everywhere. And I raised my hand and I said, I want to be a part of this.
Hmm.
And so I did move to the Middle East. I opened restaurants out there. I opened restaurants throughout Europe. I came back. I sort of headed up a lot of the development that was happening in the United States. And then ultimately, as much as I loved working for a restaurant group, I really loved the idea of creating new concepts and not always in the luxury space. And I found myself in a new role after 8 years with Hakkasan Group with a company called Sydell Group. And they were sort of the masterminds behind the Nomad Hotel, the Line, the Freehand, the Swaros, really, really different concepts. So whereas with Hakkasan, I was always kind of opening the same exact restaurant around the world, all of a sudden I was now given sort of this blank canvas to create new food and beverage concepts. And I think where Sydell Group has really, where you could really talk about Sydell Group and real estate in the same conversation, lifestyle hotels, this was back when lifestyle hotels were, in their infancy. Now
Hmm.
there's so many, but Sydell was one of the pioneers in lifestyle hotels. And the way that they approached their public spaces and their amenities for their guests and their restaurants was, we really wanted to be anchored within the community that we were coming into. So as a guest of the hotel that was coming to staying with us, you didn't just get your restaurant and your gym and your pool. You were getting this experience that felt really rooted from a design standpoint, from an architecture standpoint, from a food and beverage offering and programming standpoint throughout the hotel that felt like really that really resonated in the place that you were visiting.
Hmm.
And I think real estate generally is trying to do that more and more. Like they really want to be authentic. And if you're giving an authentic sort of experience, then you can charge more because that's what a guest who has a little bit sharper of a design eye and sharper of a palette, like that's what they want. So I worked with them for many years, and then I was with Montage Hotels, opening hotels for Montage and Pendry, and overseeing their food and beverage department. And that was wonderful, but I was ready to do my own thing. So a couple of years ago, joined Barrel Age Management. I'm a managing partner now. And one of the things that I love when you're in an operations role, you're really focused on the team and the operating hotel and the challenges that those teams have, whether it's labor shortages or problems with getting open on time because of construction delays. I get to work with a lot of different hotel owners, developers on a lot of different projects now. I get to talk about real estate on a podcast. So I just get to touch more of our industry, and I
Hmm.
love that.
I think that is really utterly brilliant. And I mean, you're still a baby as far as I'm concerned. And you're doing all of this. It's kind of mind-boggling. Your degree is in business management with sort of an emphasis in marketing. And you also had a religious studies as another, was that a major or a minor?
Major.
Wow, there you go. Yeah, I'm getting my PhD right now at the California Institute of Integral Studies, and I'm focusing on transformative studies. And so I'm dealing with a lot of people that are heavily involved in religious studies, what have you. And I think that the balance, what you do and
Mhm.
spiritual content of religious studies actually meshes incredibly well. It's kind of like Joseph Campbell said, to follow your bliss. You're following your bliss and creating an experiential palette for the people that you serve. And that's another kind of analogy between real estate and what it is you do, in that we are affecting people's lives profoundly because where you live determines a lot of the nature of the life that you live. And so
Hmm.
if you're engaged in creating spaces that meet people's experiential needs, it's very similar to real estate in that regard. And it's also similar to the other thing I do, which is theater, where you're creating an experience for the people that come to see it. I love that. And when you're working with all of these people, when you're in school, it's all theoretical and you get out into the world and it's actual. How do you how do you manage to first off, find downtime for yourself? And what do you do in your downtime?
So I have two little kids that take a lot of my time.
Oh my God.
They do travel with me quite a bit for work, which we love. And and travel at the end of the day is what I'm the most passionate about. It's what drove me to do what I do now, which is, I think that yes, to know understand someone's religion is so profound because if you understand what they believe in their faith, you actually know quite a lot about them and probably their moral compass and the way that they want to, behave in this world. And I think that is a really powerful thing with very little information about somebody usually. But it's incredible to me that you can in a couple of hours be in a different place and the culture is so different and the food is so different and the way that people think about their life and their day and their
Mhm.
priorities. And so I love that when we say, okay, we're going to do a Spanish restaurant. Okay, what part of Spain is
Right,
it Basque? If so, San Sebastian has a very different way of dining than like down south in the country. And so we got to work on a Basque style restaurant last year. And we really, we wanted the plates to be from a local ceramicist. And we wanted, the same culture of like the Chacolí wine and the pub culture and sort of the way that you eat tapas standing at the bar. And so at the end of the day, it's like, it's not just about the food, it's about the overall experience, how people engage with each other, the smells, the sights, the everything, the music. And so that's what I love about my job is the things that I love when I travel. I get to
bring it
take the
all.
best of it and integrate it into different projects that we work on.
Do you include art gallery work in these restaurants? And have you considered the entertainment aspect of it, like bringing theater, bringing music, bringing those kinds of things into these spaces?
Absolutely. We worked on the Edition Hotel in Reykjavik, which is, the capital of Iceland. And that was a really different
He's Icelandic.
project.
I'm Icelandic, by the way.
No way. Are you really? Do you speak the language?
No, very little. I can understand a little bit of it, but I don't speak it. I shouldn't say that I do.
It's an incredible language, and I cannot believe how many people there do speak it still.
Oh no,
Um,
very passionate about their language. They are very worried about it getting diluted.
mhm.
I would be with my aunties and they'd be like, to do to do airport, to do playground, to do.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. It really is. But it's such a cool place. And,
Yeah.
we came in and there's a brand new hotel there, the Edition Hotel. And the owner just said, like, I have this amazing hotel. It's in the middle of Reykjavik. It's like not doing as well as we want it to do. What are your thoughts? And we flew out there and it was the best hotel that's been built in Reykjavik. It's absolutely beautiful. It's perfect. But you felt more like you were in an Edition hotel than you felt like you were in Reykjavik in certain parts of it. And
Mhm.
so we said, look, we'd love to bring in local artwork. We found an incredible artist that did like worked with the volcanic ash that you get, at all the like the Blue Lagoon and the different and created these like beautiful volcanic ash artwork pieces that we put in different spaces. They had this sort of cocktail bar that was really forgotten about, closed. We proposed a membership club. There's, it's a small community, everybody knows each other. We wanted it to make it like hyper local, all about community, the best place to get an incredible cocktail. And so
Everybody loves to drink there, so
yeah, and there's great vodkas and great gins, and there's a huge natural wine culture and beer culture, and so we felt like, why am I going to the bar and getting like a list that's like a martini, a Negroni, a spritz? Like, let's lean into the local spirits, the local palate. And so we did more of that there. And of course, we always look at music and programming and All of that is super key. If you're going to be paying the most amount of money for the most expensive hotel on, in a destination, you want to feel like you don't necessarily have to leave that hotel.
Yeah. Yeah, when I was a little child, we had to go there all the time because all my relatives still lived there. And I haven't been there since I was like 12, but it was a really eye-opening experience to see all the different military from different
Hmm.
walking up and down the street with guns, which you wouldn't see in the United States, or just some of the horrible food that was there at that time. Like I ate moss and
And now there's Michelin restaurants. I mean, it's an incredible, right? Because people are figuring it out. You got to have great restaurants. You have to, it used to be that retail was king for commercial real estate. And now, I think it's restaurants and it's wellness and it's all the things that you want to have in your day every day that are additive to your life.
I think it's your generation because I worked for an advertising agency a long time ago called Hal Riney and Partners when I was doing my theater work. Most of my friends would work in bars and restaurants. I worked in advertising. And what I noticed is that the rise of story as a way to advertise started off, and that was in like the 1980s and 1990s. And I think that that's your generation's doing, to be honest. There always is a story involved. That's when Tiffany started doing all their advertisements that were, telling the tale of the engagement or telling the
Yes.
and I think that what you're doing is a natural expansion of telling that story in the work that you do. I notice it in pretty much every aspect of social media, every aspect of marketing that I do for my business. When I send out a postcard for a house that has just sold, the ones that actually get attention are the ones where I tell the story, not just talk about the there or the backyard, where I say this house was hard to sell because of X, Y, and Z. These were the ways we mitigated it. And this was the neighbor that talked to us about the history of the house. And when I do those, it's off the charts, the response that I get to that. And I think that leaning into those stories is a beautiful thing in what you're doing. I'm so impressed with you, Amy. I find what you're doing to be really expansive and interesting. And I'm taking a class right now called The Evolution of Art Consciousness. And, it talks about how consciousness arose from the Paleolithic age, when there were cave drawings, to the point where art is at today. And all of it is connected to individuation, becoming an authentic individual, the good and the bad of that, by the way, and how important the individual is at this point in time to Western society. And I think that whenever you lean into those things in whatever profession you're in, the more successful you'll be at this point in time, because it is the way in which consciousness is perceived. Anyway,
Yeah, I think there's so many options now, right? There's more options than we've ever had, and not just in driving location, but with with your phone, and the competition is so steep. And so who's going to get your business? And you talk about story, and I think brand narrative is so powerful. And we do a lot of that. What is the story behind this? What is the inspiration? It can't be flat. It needs to be authentic. Our consumers can sniff out an authenticity really quickly. And I'll give you an example. We had a restaurant, a hotel development that we're working through, and what is the programming going to be? And there's a membership component and multiple restaurants, and
mhm,
even the flag was undecided. Do we want to come in as like a Marriott Autograph? Do we want to come in as a Ritz-Carlton? Like, what tier do we want this to be? And
right.
so we presented a lot of different options. And, the coffee shop was a point where we got stuck a lot because this is a resort hotel. The coffee shop will be very busy. It was very central in terms of where it was located in the hotel. And the developer was like, let's just call it Grind and, make it a coffee shop, like make it like a Starbucks. Like, well, I think it should be more than that. And actually, there's this like really special local roaster that is 2 miles away that's been there for 20 years with this incredible story. And why don't we partner with them and do their name and do, we can offer the guests like tours of the roastery. And, it was
Right.
like, well, we don't want another management agreement. It's like, I know, but think about the way that your guest is going to feel going to a coffee shop that they feel is part of the community, part of the experience, not outsourced. There's a real, there's inspiration there and you feel good. And so we ended up doing it. And I think,
Of course you
I think it's going to be great, but that, your guest just they want to feel immersed, and they want to feel like they're getting an experience that they can't get anywhere else,
Mhm.
and that there's value.
Mhm.
And so that's what we focus on. And I think that, it's such a key part of real estate too, because at the end of the day, what that's, a lot of these hotel projects are tied to commercial real estate, condominium real estate. And so the amenities that you're providing are crucial.
Absolutely. I belong to a book club, and we read a book earlier this year called Unreasonable Hospitality, which I bet you're familiar with. Yeah. And everything you're talking about is what we read in that book, to be
Yeah.
honest with you. It's almost like we took those ideas and ran with them and expanded them. Unreasonable Hospitality is a wonderful book. Anybody who's involved in anything that is a service industry should be reading this book, because it
Hmm.
talks about how far you go to please a customer, and the memory that you leave with that customer, and how crucial and important that is. And you have proven to us today that my faith is restored, by the way, in these kinds of planning things, to know that there's a person like you out there doing these kinds of projects and putting that kind of energy and thought process into it. Brilliant, just wonderful. It's really been terrific to have you today. Amy, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, how do they do it?
Our website, barrelagedmanagement.com. You'll find us there, all of your information. We're also on Instagram, Barrel Aged Management. So you can find us there.
Very cool. Thank you for being with me today. This has been really fun, and I'd love to talk to you again, probably in 5 years' time, to see what you're up to, because it's obviously been crazy and amazing and successful so far. All right,
Thank you for having me. This was great.
take good care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
If you loved hearing from these incredible voices shaping real estate, you'll want to catch what's next. Click the video on screen to keep discovering more inspiring stories.